Hey everybody, and welcome to the bench. Today we have a Stromberg Carlson AU 64 PA head, and think this thing is 60s era, and was a little disappointed with the whole thing once I had gotten it. And I've seen a lot of really well-made, well-engineered Stromberg Carlson amplifiers. This one in particular seems to be something from their more budget line. There's a nice belly of a middle-aged man. So this one I particularly bought in the beginning of my amp journey because I thought it looked cool, and that was kind of my thing in the beginning. Is I just were picking out amps that I just thought looked cool and vintage, and I could see them on stage with some groovy, cool band that was using vintage gear and cool amps that kind of had that look in mind at first. So I got this AU64 thinking, it looked really cool and retro with the light blue, face on it and the kind of, sun yellow knobs. But after I got the lid off, here you can see the whole chassis was pretty much built into a tray system. And there's a little AC receptacle. It had the tube layout on one end. There you can see the schematic, and on the other end it contains the actual schematic for the amp. I had high hopes for this amplifier until I started getting into it and saw that it's based on a tray, and look at the tube sockets. They're like little pedestals. And here's a PCB board. So I'm thinking this amp is probably mid-60s. I've seen a couple PC boards in Stromberg Carlsons before. Usually they're, quote unquote, point to point. A lot of Stromberg Carlson amplifiers have vertical mounted transformers. Those silly tube mounts, they reminded me of the little alien pods from like the movie Alien when they grew on those things. Like the tube sticking out of it looks like an alien pod. But just a really kind of flimsy chassis, light metal. This was definitely a budget era amp, or something more made for lower cost situations, I suppose. But once I got into this thing and I looked at the chassis and everything else that was going on in it, and I've seen some cool videos of people doing conversions with this amp, and it sounded pretty good, for the most part. But it wasn't wowing me or anything. And just the PCB board thing was kind of a interesting end on it. But as you can see here, in the end, I just figured, what's going to matter most about this thing is the transformers that it has in it. And so it is a 30-watt amp, and I will be showing the schematic for it here in a little bit. But so I just started getting down, pulling wires and gutting this thing. I don't know what I'll ever do with it someday now. I feel like past this point, it's never going to come back to its original state. Basically, I'm just going to cannibalize the transformers out of it for some other project down the road or something. But I don't know why I was using the light here. I guess I was trying to see better. But I was just checking out the wire coloring for the ohms on the output. And so neat little amp, I guess. I always say that. It's kind of my little thing to say. And I was hoping this was going to amount to more of a cooler project for me, and I probably could have made it. I could have converted this amp into something cool. The PCB board kind of threw me off a little bit, and I just decided I didn't want to mess with that stuff right now. And it was pretty cool to see one that kind of seems to be kind of handmade or something. It didn't look like it was mass-produced PCB boards. They looked like they were constructed by hand. So as you can see here, I'm just kind of going through, gutting it, separating wires, figuring out which goes where, kind of going through the mess. And I can only imagine, back in the day, this, like I said, this was a budget style amp, probably low cost series for Stromberg Carlson. I know they had the AU63, which was a 15-watt version, and like I said, this is the AU64, and it's kind of going through. It's got a little riser there for for another AC receptacle inside there. I didn't really look at that very closely to see exactly. I don't know if that was tied to the main power, or if you had to have that plugged in when it was operating, or if that was just a secondary AC line. But anyways, just going through and wrapping these, getting everything kind of isolated out and figuring out what, how I can best. Some of these transformers, boy, they're, 50, 60, 70 years old on some of these old amps, and the wires are completely stiff, and they're hard to work with, and they're fragile and brittle, and you're just afraid you're going to break them off inside the transformer. So this one wasn't too bad. The wires on this one was pretty good. They weren't. I've come across some transformers of wiring that is just completely brittle and hard to work with, and you have to be careful. It's a pain in the butt. But nobody likes paying top dollar for brand new transformers that usually come from somewhere undesirable or have a bunch of hum. So I do enjoy all these old amplifiers and the old transformers that came with them. I grabbed the biggest tools in the shed. Anyways, so snip, 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 clip, clip, clip. Just going through this flimsy little chassis, trying to get what I can get out, throwing a fit. Put that off to the side. Try to figure out how I can unmount these transformers. Come on, you can do it. Fast forward a little bit here. Got them pulled out. And, take these things out. Pull the lid off. Goofy little handles on top. Make a lot of noise. Oh, we have some crusties. I was hoping that was going to be from something spilled on the amp, and not from the stuff inside the transformer that bubbles out when transformers start heating up. I don't think I can use those goofy little lazy alien pod risers. But here's the 2 chunks of iron. Looks like it's been worked on. Just trying to look in there. Part of me wanted to just take the whole thing apart and check it out, but I can't see in there. But this is a cathode biased amp, and so I'll probably just use another cathode biased design for whatever these transformers go into. But kind of stoked about these vertical mounts. Should be ready to go. Not the biggest in the world, but okay, here we go with the Radio Museum schematic. And you can see it's loaded with the 6L6s, power tubes, 6 AV6 phase inverter, 12 AX7 preamps, 12 AT7s. Looks like they're kind of like, driving the tone stack or recouping the loss from the tone stack. But I always like to have the schematic always, it's always good to have. So, in closing, really it's kind of like bittersweet to, destroy this amp for something else that I have planned. And my original ideas of using this thing as, some kind of an amp. I thought it'd be cool as like maybe a bass amp or something, like a really, really clean, low power bass amp. But Okay, just want to thank everybody for hanging out, watching this video. I appreciate your time, and have a great day. See you next time.